Hi gang. Today, or this video I should say, is talking about the research review, the written assignment where you have to pull apart an original research article that has a method section. And today I'm going to show you in an article I have over there how to find the answers to these questions, where to find the answers to these questions. So when it's time for you to write this up, you know where to go in your article. But there are 5 questions you need to answer. The first one is, what are the hypotheses? What is the hypothesis? What are the research questions? So that's question number 1. Question number 2, the subjects. So this is all about the who. Who did the researchers use in their study? How did they find the people for their study? Section 3, which is the procedures and the measures. So this is all about the what. What did they do? How did they select their subjects? How did they collect their information? Was it surveys? Was it interviews? What tests, what measures, what assessments did they use to collect the data, to get the information from the subjects of the study? The 4th thing I need you to findings. These are the results. What did they demonstrate? What did they show? What did the study actually prove? And then the 5th part is critique. That's from your point of view. After you read the article and pull out the 4 key parts of an article, I need you to go back and look at it. Review, what did they do well? The researchers. Review, what did they do badly? Again, the researchers. And then write about that in your critique. So today, really the purpose of today with this is to show you where to find the 4 sections in the research article. And I have an article right here. Give me a sec, it's coming over. Give it a minute, it'll focus. There we go. Okay. This is about emotions during live music performance, links with individual differences in empathy, visual imagery, and mood. Now, scooch this back for a sec. Question number 1, hypotheses, research questions. I'm going to show you where to find those. What you need to do is flip through your article until you come to the word method or methods. That's where they start describing the article. That's where they start describing their research. In order to find their hypotheses, the purpose of their study, what they're doing, what you need to do is go to the method section and then back up. At least a paragraph, probably more. In this study, we know it's probably more because they were nice enough here, where it says the present study, to give you a section all set aside about what the research questions are. So if you read through here, you just go through the present field study investigates. Right there, that's one of the key words, investigates. It could also say the present field study seeks to demonstrate, wants to prove, is exploring. Anything along those lines that indicates they are doing work, delving into information, that's going to be your research questions. So right here, this is number 1. So what they're wanting to investigate is the contribution of 3 individual differences on emotional responses during a live opera performance. Oh, let me scooch this down. And continue to read through here. See if there's anything else in here that they say. They gave you their first goal, but you need to look and see if there's anything else. Another keyword, here we go. The main aim of this study. That's more of your research question stuff. So just skim through. Oh, we expect. That's a prediction. That's an educated guess. So we expected this performance would induce a combination of plot-related negative emotions and performance-related positive emotions. So just keep skimming, looking for, oh, look, they were even nice. It said it was hypothesized. Ha-ha. We also hypothesized. We expected. All of those phrases indicate an educated guess. That's your hypotheses. So the first paragraph here, before the method section, as well as the paragraph before that where it says present study, in this study, that is where you will find the research questions, the hypotheses. So in your study, when you find the method section, go back a paragraph and start skimming through and see the details that they give you. If it says at the beginning of this paragraph, our secondary aims or additional hypotheses, clearly you need to go back one more because you're looking for the first, the primary, the starting point. But in most of your studies, this is the key paragraph. You need to summarize all of their goals in here. So once you find that, now we can move on to question number 2, which is the who. Who participated? How did they find them? You scooch it up. And then in this study, go to the methods. Because the answers to question number 2, the who, and question number 3, the procedure, is all after the word method. So here it's labeled participants. This is the number 2. It could be respondents. It could be subjects. It could be sample. Anything that indicates the animals or the people who were tested. It may not be the first thing listed. They may, instead of listing participants first, they may list something else like procedures, perhaps even measures. So just keep looking for it. There's no perfect exact order. Not every single study is going to tell you the people, the who, and then what they did to them. Sometimes they'll say this is what we did to them and this is who we had. So just know it's in the method section. So don't give up if it's not the first thing there. It might be the third thing there. So keep looking. So all of these details here. 120 participants, 86 women. Age range. This is how they were found. Remember question number 2? Let me pull this back for a second. Who did they have and how did they find them? Advertisements. Right there. Distributed at, there you go. It's all right there. It's not a lot of detail, but they do tell you who was involved, the number that was involved, gender breakdown, age breakdown. So you have some basics. So for this study, the number 2, really easy. It's all right there. Now the number 3, go back. How did they select? How did the researchers collect the information? What tests? Well, a key here in terms of how did they select was, if we go back here, we can see here it's only people who saw Madame Butterfly. So how did they select? They selected because the person saw Madame Butterfly. So this is, even though it's a description of the opera performance, this is still something you need to write about in the procedure. Because everyone who participated had to see Madame Butterfly. Madame Butterfly, not Madame Butterfly. I have no idea what that is. And right here, it gives you the plot. That's something you would need to summarize in section number 3, because we need to know what did they see. Because an opera like Madame Butterfly, which is kind of depressing, is going to leave a different vibe than an opera that's more uplifting, happy. So that's the first part in this study. Here's the next part, measures. This is also number 3. Because again, one of the questions here is what test measures did they collect from the people? And there's a few things listed here. Like music-induced emotions were assessed using the GEMS. There's another one listed here. Trait empathy was assessed using the Toronto Empathy Questionnaire. Just going to keep going. The vividness of visual imagery questionnaire. That's another one. Mood was assessed, positive and negative effect schedule. So we can see in this study, as I scooch this up so you can see everything, in this study, They used 1, 2, 3, 4 different assessments. So what you would need to do in your write-up is mention each one of these assessments and give a brief description, 2 sentences of what it's about. For example, it could be the assessment is a fill in the blank, which would be different than an assessment where you have to choose a value between 1 and 7, which is different than an assessment where you have to choose yes or no. So you need to give a little brief description about what every single assessment is in Section 3. And yes, Section 3 is going to be very long, because for this study, not only do you have to describe Madam Butterfly, you have to describe each one of these 4 assessments and procedure, which is still part of number 3. Procedure, right here. How did the researchers collect their information? So they're describing here, during the week of the performances, participants came to the laboratory to sign an informed consent, fill out the forms under supervision. Right here, all of this paragraph, that's what they did to the people. They came into a room, they filled out forms. They did it again an hour before the performance, immediately after each act. And while watching, you can see they were also instructed to keep count of the chills they experienced. So section number 3, you can see it's going to be the majority of the method section. See part of that column on this page, the entire column down to the bottom, top of this column. So section number 3, there should be a lot. You should have a lot of information coming from the researchers. Now, we've done sections 1, 2, and 3, and if you'll notice, for questions 1, 2, and 3, method is the key word. If your study doesn't have a method in it anywhere, you got to find another article. Sorry, but it's not original research if there's no method section in it. But if you go to the method section, you work just before the method section. You work everything in the method sections for questions 1, 2, and 3 until you get to here where it says statistical analysis. See, this is the word. Analysis right there. You don't have to read that. That's the statistics. This isn't a statistics class, so I don't expect you to be able to read it. So you can skip anything that says statistical analysis. However, I will say this. If there is a description, again, after the methods, along with all the measures, along with all the procedure, where it might say something like data collection, those are the assessments. Data analysis, again, data analysis, that's statistics. They might say study design or statistical design. That keyword design, that's a procedure, that's a plan. So you're going to need to read that section. See if it talks about how they're going to collect the data, the process for collecting the data, what data is collected. That's part of number 3. But when it says analysis, it doesn't matter. That's statistics. Don't need you to know it. So, we're doing good so far. We got number 1, we got number 2, we got number 3. Now it's time for number 4, which is the findings, the results. This, oddly enough, not in the results. In order to find the findings in a study, you have to keep flipping and going until you find the word discussion. Right there. Discussion. This is where the researchers will summarize what they found. They will tell you, we demonstrated, we showed, we proved, results indicate. Number 4. So, if we start reading this, you'll see in this study, they do a nice just little summary at the beginning, where it says, this study describes the emotional experience reported by participants. Results supported our hypotheses. But if you'll notice, it's not really very specific, because in this study, what they did was broke out the results under some subheadings here. So this is the first subheading. So this is still part of number 4, and we'll come back to it in a second. And there's another subheading, traits in mood and music. So in order to answer number 4 for this article on people who saw Madame Butterfly and their emotional response, you would need to look under the subheadings here. And right here, there's one of the key words, the emotions reported. That indicates a finding. Here, it's the emotions reported during this live performance were characterized by increased sublimity and decreased vitality and unease. So we already know here, this is a finding. Let's see. Repeatedly assessing allowed us to describe its dynamics. We found that. Here we go. We found that. That's another indication of a finding. We found that unease gradually increased during performance in parallel with the chills. And if any of you all watching this are familiar with Madame Butterfly, probably not too much of a surprise. But you need to keep going after you get to the discussion section. You need to keep going and read each paragraph and skim through it and see if you can find the key words. And continuing in this paragraph, it's more description of the relationship between unease and chills. So that's still that one finding back there. So if we look in here under traits and mood, we got to look for more results. And look. These results generally supported our expectations. Another indication of this is what we found. Differences in empathy, visual imaging. There we go. Mood would influence the emotions reported during the performance. And keep reading, because for each one of these paragraphs, where at the beginning it has a we found, we demonstrated, we supported, you need to have at least a sentence summarizing that one finding. So far, for our study, since we have 1, 2, 3 findings, there's at least 3 sentences addressing issue number 4, which is what did they find? And keep going. Keep reading the first few sentences. To see if there's something there. Here we go. Therefore, it is not surprising that participants with this Again, it's another finding. So you're going to need to summarize this paragraph. Keep going. You need to keep going once you get to the discussions. Eventually, you're going to come to a point where they're summarizing the entire article and relating it back to the original literature review, which is nothing you need to worry about. Oh, converging evidence. Evidence, that's another indication of a finding of a result. Oh, in addition, we found, let's see, overall, these results support the process approach and are online. There we go, with the influences on empathy. So let's see, this one was number 3, this is number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7. This was a very busy study. They have 7 findings. And then we get to the very end where it says conclusion, which you don't need to read that. Now, some of you may be thinking, okay, we found 1 through 4. What about number 5? Number 5 is the critique. In this study, they're leaving it up to you to figure out what did they do well, what could they change, what they could do differently. So you could go back and look at the people. And if I remember correctly, weren't the majority of participants female? So if the majority of the participants are female and going to opera, that could make sense. But if we're going to connect music and mood, wouldn't we also want to include a significant number of males as well? Perhaps we need to do it in a different venue for men to be active participants. You could go back and talk about Madame Butterfly was great. Excellent choice, because Madame Butterfly is very disturbing to a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of emotional connection. You could also go back and argue, well, maybe instead of an opera that's really sad, maybe you could find an opera that's happy. But this is up to you. You might get lucky. You might find some researchers that give you a little strengths and limitations section, and it will be located just before the conclusion, so it'll still be in the discussion section. So they'll give you a point to start critiquing it. They will kind of give you some hints of what you should be critiquing. But it's kind of 50-50 whether or not that will happen. So hopefully, now that we've gone through this fun article on emotions during live music performance, showing you where to find the sections, hopefully now with your article that you have in front of you, you can go and find the relevant parts for questions 1 through 4 in your article. And thank you. Bye.